Another day, another major video game company reporting that, well, things aren't going too great for them. And I know it's easy for people to be like, oh, it's because of corporate greed, this, that, or the other. And I completely agree. Like, it does play a role, but there's also a bigger role going on right now. It's that gaming is just getting a little bit too big. Budgets are getting too high for games. And if you're not hitting these insane metrics that you set out to hit because of the fact that the production values of your games are so high, eventually things are going to get bad. And they're getting bad. We're seeing it right now in this year of 2024, in the year of our Lord, where a lot of video game companies are struggling. And the next company we have to talk about is Square Enix. Square Enix, everything's going good for Square Enix. They're making lots of games and people are enjoying the games. Yeah, that doesn't matter if people aren't buying the games and the games are not selling to a point of where they're recouping finances on the development costs of these games, because Square Enix just announced a major shift in their business strategy and PlayStation 5 owners might not really like that. Now, when you think of Square Enix and the PlayStation 5, like, they have been like a first-party company. The amount of content that they have put out on the PlayStation 5 that's exclusive to the PlayStation 5 has been more than some of Sony's studios. They've been like a pillar of the PS5, but it seems like that might not be a long-term strategy anymore, according to Square Enix themselves. So if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We are shifting. There's lots of shifts going on here in this report from Square Enix themselves. We're shifting from quantity to quality, delivering ensured fun. Strive to create the optimal portfolio, striking a balance between a product out approach that gives creators' imaginations free rein as they develop content, and a market in approach that references customers' voices and data to inform our developmental efforts. And you know what? That is a delicate balance, because you have to listen to your customers but you also have to be able to create things that maybe your customers aren't aware that they want. A game like, if you really think about it, like, not to give any sort of credit to Fortnite, but a game like Fortnite on paper, like, I don't think it would sound like something customers would really gravitate towards. Like, Fortnite became a thing because customers decided that this is what they like. This is something that they wanted without realizing that they wanted it. So it is a bit of a delicate balance to, just put out stuff that you want there to be some creativity. You want there to be some creative freedom, but at the same time, you're a business. You've got to make money. You've got to get paid. But here's where things start getting crazy. Shift to a multi-platform strategy. Aggressively pursue a multi-platform strategy that includes Nintendo platforms, PlayStation, Xbox, and PCs. Build an environment where more customers can enjoy our titles in regards to major franchises and AAA titles, including catalog titles. Devise a platform strategy for SD titles too, that not only includes iOS and Android, but the possibility of PC launches. Maximize the acquisition of new users when launching a title, and that of recurring users after starting management of game operations. So, what is this saying? This, to me, is screaming your big Final Fantasy games, because right now, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Final Fantasy XVI, they did not come out on any other platforms. They only came out on the PlayStation 5 or the PlayStation 4 in the terms of remake. And when you look at the sales of those, I don't think that they were as high as Square Enix wanted them to be. I think Square Enix thought that there was a much bigger market based on, the hype around Final Fantasy VII, based on the love that people have of this game. I think they thought it was a much bigger market. And when you see the sales numbers, like, they're super solid. Like, they're super good. And if there wasn't a high budget production behind it, like, they probably would be very happy. But people seem to be forgetting that aspect of things when it comes to these Final Fantasy VII remakes, remasters, when it comes to Final Fantasy XVI. These games are not cheap to make. You have to sell millions and millions of copies just to potentially break even. And it doesn't seem like Square Enix is hitting those metrics when it comes to those big Final Fantasy games, because yes, some smaller games have been multi-platform, your HD versions of games, your Octopaths and stuff like that. Like those have ended up becoming multi-platform entries. But when it comes to like the main heavy hitters of the Final Fantasy games, like they're not hitting metrics. You think foam stars really help things out? Or were people excited about foam? Like, I haven't heard anyone talk about foam stars since like 2 weeks after it came out. And people tried to hype this game up like it was going to be a big, huge thing. And like, no, like it's kind of a market that people are getting a little bit tired of. And I don't think that that was something that a lot of PlayStation owners were necessarily looking forward to. That kind of comes down to the quantity versus quality aspect that we just talked about. But I think Square Enix is going to find that they're kind of in a weird position when it comes to this multi-platform strategy, because in their mind, they're just like, okay, we'll put everything everywhere. You know, these Final Fantasy games, we're not going to restrict them anymore. We're going to put them on other platforms. But I feel like that's going to be a little bit more difficult than they realize, because of the fact that, I mean, people aren't buying Xbox games. Like, I understand a port isn't going to be all that, you know, intensive or cost all that much, but people aren't buying games on Xbox. You know, unless it goes into Game Pass, a lot of people aren't, I shouldn't say all people, but a lot of people are not checking them out. So you're not going to necessarily get a bunch of sales from that, especially when Xbox doesn't know its head from its own ass, doesn't know what they want to do, and doesn't know their company direction. You can look at Nintendo, and I think that's a great option for you, but you got to wait. Because the Nintendo Switch isn't running your Final Fantasy 7s or your Final Fantasy 16s. You would have to wait for the next generation platform to put them on there. And that could be a good thing, but you can't do it necessarily on the current platform that you have. I feel like Square Enix kind of backed themselves into a bit of a corner. And I've seen a lot of people online saying, well, their sales were up. You know, their sales were up year over year. It was a small marginal increase, I believe is the terminology they use, or something like that. So then what's the problem? You know, Final Fantasy's selling, Final Fantasy 7 selling, Final Fantasy 16 is selling. That's not good enough. There shouldn't just be a slight increase. There should be a massive increase, because you have two massive games to talk about with this. You had two massive games on your portfolio, and it doesn't seem like they hit the metrics. And that's just talking about gross sales. That's not talking about necessarily like revenue from, you know, as far as how gross profit versus net profit. Like basic business courses here. Gross profit's going to look very different than net profit, because gross profit is just what you sold and how much you made from that. Net profit takes into account what you spent on it. And I feel like the development cost of some of those games, I don't think that they did as well as they thought they were going to do. And, you know, saying that you're going to do less quantity, more quality, what does that mean? Because your games were quality. You know, I'm not a huge fan of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I think it has way too much padding. I love the gameplay. I love the visuals. The padding in the game, and Chadley kind of soured me a bit on it. I loved Final Fantasy VII Remake. I thought that was brilliant. I haven't gotten around to playing Final Fantasy 16 yet, but these are games that were critically acclaimed. They're some of the highest rated games. They are of very high quality. We're just in this point right now, and you know, you also have to factor in the economy. The yen versus the US dollar right now is night and day. So people in Japan aren't spending much on, you know, entertainment. You look in America right now, people are struggling to put food on the table. They're not necessarily trying to spend $70 on a video game that might just go into PlayStation Plus in a year if you wait, or if it goes to Xbox, it might just go into Game Pass. Like, economic problems are a large part of the video game industry problems, but there's so many other reasons why. These rising development costs, these crazy metrics that people think that they need to hit because they're self-imposed, because they put so much time and effort and money into a game. Like, people who say that gaming is healthy right now, they're fucking idiots. I didn't mean to say the F word, but it came out, because they are. They literally are. I've been preaching this for months and months and months now. that the video game industry is not in a very good state. It's in a very volatile state, and people see that all this money coming in, oh, everything must be good. And yes, corporate greed does play a role in that, but there's a much bigger role going on. The rise of development costs, how much everything costs to make nowadays. And if you don't turn a profit or break even, companies are shutting down, studios are shutting down. Look at Tango. You did great, Tango, but we got to close you down, pal. Sorry about that. And if you think that that's just going to be exclusive to Xbox and it's not going to hit Sony, you're not paying attention, bro. So I'll be interested to see what Square Enix does. I think the Nintendo Switch successor, the Switch 2, will help them because they can port some of those Final Fantasy games over there that are exclusive to PlayStation right now. But I mean, really, if you're Sony as well, like, you're losing quite a few exclusives on this. Like, because you're not making games right now. You're in this weird phase where nothing's quite ready yet. And obviously that could change if Sony does a presentation. But Sony themselves have even said it's not going to be bigger stuff this year. It's going to be, smaller stuff. So, time will tell if that's just the actual situation that we're going to see or if they have something up their sleeve. But you wonder why these companies are doing so many remakes and remasters instead of trying something new. It's because the video game industry is not in a good place right now. But if you want to believe otherwise, you can. But I feel like if you watch RGT and you're subscribed to the channel, you know better because you're more well informed. Let me know what you think about, though, in the comments section down below. Do you think that Square Enix might have to downsize to some degree? What do you think about their upcoming strategy? Because this is happening. This isn't just something that's being discussed. This is literally something that's going to happen. How do you think this will impact PlayStation 5 owners? Like, as a PlayStation 5 owner, some of the games that I buy are Square Enix games. And you kind of assimilate a lot of these games with the PlayStation branding, but it seems like that's just not worthwhile anymore. It's, man. Let me know what you think of everything, though, in the comments section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. Hit the bell as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next episode. That's not what I say. It's the next video. I always think of chill to the next episode. I'll catch you guys on the next video. Bastard. Later.